Hello folks, my name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. How you guys doing? So, the big story now is that Trump has doubled down on his Charlottesville remarks. And he had a press conference the other day where he was questioned by some reporters about, Charlottesville, and basically tried to paint a false equivalency between the alt-right Nazi identitarian protesters and the anti-fascist guys who were there, you know, the non-Nazis, right? Basically saying that there was violence on both sides, like he said before, but then he expanded on that a little. So when a reporter asked him about the alt-right, he asked the reporter to define what that was, right? Like, what is the alt-right? Which is actually a tactic that these guys use online a lot, you know. Define, tell me who they are, like what group it is. And it's like in real life, it's a large number of groups that runs a spectrum, just like any other political, group or political party or political ideology. They run a spectrum. They go all the way from hard right identitarian type guys to guys who are not necessarily into white nationalism, but are, that includes Milo Yiannopoulos. He's not a Nazi, but he's definitely part of the alt-right, but so that's one thing. He then claimed that the alt-left, right, that is the counter-protesters who were there, are the ones that instigated the violence, saying that they rushed the protesters with clubs, and also claimed that they didn't have a permit, which isn't true. They actually did have a permit. Then when asked, he asked if the statues of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson should be taken down next because apparently, they were slave owners, right? Although he didn't specify that, but presumably that's what he said. And also that not all of the right-wing protesters at this place were Nazis, and some very good people were there, protesting the takedown of these statues, that it was part of their culture and all that shit, right? And as expected, this has pissed off a lot of people, right? He's had probably the worst 2 days of his presidency since then. Right. Yeah, I'm just wondering, why are people surprised? It's like it's finally kind of dawning on people the kind of man that Donald Trump is, that he's, a racist piece of shit. Why are people surprised? You know what I mean? Like, because throughout the campaign, this guy has refused to disavow support that he gets from, right-wing groups, from racist groups, from the alt-right. Right, he's refused to give donations back. Like, for example, when when KKK groups would donate to his campaign, that kind of thing, he would refuse to even address it, and he wouldn't give their money back to him. And then finally, like one time, after like there was violence committed and in his name and stuff, he finally went on TV and said, "Just stop it." And that's like the only time he's ever spoken up against right-wing racist hate. But throughout the campaign, throughout the entire campaign, he just sort of completely ignored it. When people would go to his rallies and stuff and commit acts of violence, and when they would be saying racist shit, and when people would post racist shit online, he just completely ignored that throughout the entire campaign. And then after he gets elected, he puts Steve Bannon and Sebastian Gorka and Stephen Miller in his cabinet, which all three of these guys have connections to, racist groups. I mean, fucking Steve Bannon, is notorious racist. I don't even have to go into that. Just go on Google and look up Steve Bannon, and you'll see, right, this fucking guy is he was the editor of Breitbart, which is just Breitbart is like the fucking media outlet for the alt-right. They cater to those people. You know, Sebastian Gorka was part of a Hungarian fascist group that, you know, he's basically a Nazi sympathizer, right? And this is not, you know, this is not like some conspiracy theory out there. You know, this is like true shit. Okay, we knew who these people were when he, you know, when he was elected, when he added them to his campaign, like, and these are the people that go out and they talk for the president, you know. So why the fuck are people surprised? Right. Then, you know, he's cut funding for you know, after he was elected, he cut funding to for investigations into right-wing terrorist groups. In fact, you know, he won't even say like the word right-wing terrorism. He won't even say it. You know, like for example, last week there was a bombing at a mosque in Minnesota, and Sebastian Gorka goes on TV and claims that, you know, it could have been a false flag, you know, instigated by liberals, right? Which is complete bullshit, because it's like one time 6 months ago some guy like vandalized a church and it turned out to be like a dude that was doing it in order to get attention, and he really wasn't part of like any Nazi or hate groups or whatever. So now, of course, since that happened once, every single fucking time that there's an act of terror or something like that, you know, the Trump people are claiming that it's all false flags. It's all done by leftist groups in order to make it look like, you know, right-wing groups are doing it, you know, in order to set them up, which is complete and total fucking bullshit, right? You know, so it's just sort of like, I'm not surprised at all. You know, it's depending on, you know, showing that the kind of people that he elected to his cabinet, his policies that he enacts, you know, the fact that he cut all the funding to investigating, you know, right-wing extremist groups in the United States. Other policies, for example, Jeff Sessions now is directing the Department of Justice to start suing colleges on the behalf of white students, you know, because of possible anti-white discrimination, which is total fucking bullshit. Basically, it's a roundabout way of challenging affirmative action, because they know that they're going to lose in the courts, so now they're going to use the justice system, which is bullshit. That's going to go nowhere. But, you know, why is that happening, right? These are policies that this administration has put, you know, is putting into action, which are, you know, have a clearly fucking racist agenda. These are policies that are basically bones that he's throwing to his base, because his base is made up of the alt-right. You know, these fucking assholes at that rally holding the Nazi signs and shit, that's Trump's base, you know. So, and it's just, you know, it doubles it, you know, the fact that like some White House staffers have basically come out anonymously, of course, and said that this is how, you know, Trump, this is his like private, you know, these sentiments, they match what he says in private. One last thing, folks. Today there was a terrorist attack in Spain, which just happened, where an Islamic militant ran his car into a crowd and killed something like 13 people. All the details, as of this recording, all the details aren't out yet. And, you know, the White House had no problem condemning that attack as terrorism. So it's like, how come, you know, when someone who happens to be Islamic runs a car through a crowd, that's instantly terrorism, but when a white person does it, it's not terrorism? You know, just think about that for a minute. It's like, it hasn't, you know, Trump took 2 days to come out and condemn the Nazis when they fucking killed somebody by running them over, by doing the exact same thing that this guy in Spain did, that this ISIS guy in Spain did. Why is that? You know, why, you know, that really, that's just all you really need to know about Donald Trump and white nationalism, right? He doesn't fucking care about it, because these are the people that got him elected. Anyway, adios, folks.